Se löytyy täältä.
Welcome, my friend.
Hello.
I am the proprietor, Dr. John. If you have any questions, I will be happy to assist.
Great. My name is Nye. And I'll probably take you up on that.
Ennen kuin aletaan jutella tuon Dr. Johnin kanssa, tehdään tämmönen pikkuinen testi tästä, nimittäin ihjänäni jostain tulevasta. Eli painetaan tosta katkaisijasta.
What does this do?
Okei, kärmä meni tuolla ihan sekaisin.
Oh, sorry.
We have air conditioning.
Yeah, I see.
Meni ihan sekaisin tuo käärme tuolla noin. Se on ihan hyödyllinen tieto tässä myöhemmin. Hyötyä tuostakin. Otellaanpa ton tohtori Johnin kanssa.
Could I ask you some questions?
That is why I am here.
Mitäs sä osaisit kertoa voodoosta?
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo? Or the voodoo currently practiced in the city?
No, mennään niihin myöhemmin, mutta kerropa noista voodoo-murhista.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
The killings in the newspaper? I know that they have nothing to do with true voodoo in New Orleans.
Ja mitäs New Orleansista yleensä?
What do you think of New Orleans?
It is the only city in the United States as far as I am concerned.
Entäs käärmeistä?
Do you know anything about snakes?
You have perhaps noticed the museum's name, Mr. Knight. They are beautiful creatures, do you not agree? And the tourists seem to associate them with voodoo.
Tiesitkö sä mitä Capri Sanko tarkoittaa?
Do you have any idea what Capri Saint-Gare means?
I fear my French is not all it should be, Mr.
Tai Schwarzenegger.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No, I have not.
Kerropa itsestäsi.
Tell me about yourself.
Me?
Yes, if you don't mind.
What is it you wish to learn?
Miksi avasit voodoo-museon?
Why did you open a voodoo museum?
The subject has fascinated me all my life, and I wanted to help preserve the cultural heritage it represents.
Minkälainen tausta sulla on voodoosta?
What kind of background in voodoo do you have?
Let us say that I cut my teeth on it, Mr. Knight. It is in my blood.
Mitäs muuta se tekee, kun pyörittää museota?
Do you do anything besides run the museum?
No. The museum does not make me a rich man, but my material needs are simple. I prefer to focus on my one true interest in life.
Mikäs uskonnollisiin juttuihin sä uskot?
What are your own religious beliefs?
My beliefs are too personal and too complex to discuss with a layman, Mr. Knight.
Kerropa sitten ihan mitä tahansa.
Just tell me anything.
I am originally from the West Indies myself, you know.
Really? What brought you to New Orleans?
I was drawn here for personal reasons.
Jep.
Actually, I can't think of a thing.
Then, let us discuss something else.
Kerropa sitten historiallisesta voodoosta.
Tell me about historical voodoo.
Very well. I will start at the beginning, Mr. Knight, and will go on from there at your prompting.
Sounds good.
As you may know, voodoo is a grassroots religion formed by the mixing together of many different African tribal religions and Anglo religions, such as Catholicism or Protestantism. In other words, it is a religion born of the African slave trade, but African slaves were imported not only by the United States, but also into the West Indies, where the French and Spanish ran plantation islands. Prior to 1803, the New Orleans area was owned by France. The French Creole in those days owned many African slaves. But the Creole did not permit their slaves to gather, giving no chance for voodoo to breed here natively. The Creole also knew enough about the corrupted pagan practices of the West Indies slaves to ban the importing of slaves from that region.
Tosiaan tää on ihan kaikki ihan leikistä, eli ihan aitoa voodoo-historiaa, että ei ole mitään keksittyjä juttuja, että tää kaikki on ihan täyttä faktaa, mitä tää kaveri kertoo. Kysytäänpä lisää siitä.
So, how did voodoo come to New Orleans?
After the Louisiana Purchase, American legislators relaxed regulations. Slaves were permitted to gather. The Americans also removed the ban on West Indies slaves. Around the same time, a slave revolt occurred in Santo Domingo, what is now Haiti. Between the lifting of the ban and the Haitian revolt, West Indies slaves began pouring into New Orleans. Some of them were free people of color, freed or escaped slaves. Some came with their white owners who were fleeing from the revolt.
Vielä lisää.
What happened when the West Indies slaves got here?
They brought voodoo with them. The native slaves were more than enthusiastic about embracing it. It gave them power, Mr. Knight, if only in the form of a communal bond. Among the first meeting places were the Bayou Saint John and the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. The early voodoos were heavy snake worshippers, worshipping the one they called the Great Zombie.
Vielä lisää tästä tulee nimittäin aika paljon tietoa.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
By 1817, the voodoo activities were beginning to cause fear among the white slave owners. An ordinance was passed to forbid slave gatherings except in designated public areas at designated times. The time was Sunday afternoons and the place, Congo Square. The slaves and free people of color gathered to dance simulations of their voodoo dances right in sight of Creole society. Of course, they also continued to meet in private for the real thing.
Vielä löytyy tietoa.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
There were a variety of kings and queens at first, voodoo priests and priestesses. But from about 1830, a single power emerged. This was a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau ruled voodoo in New Orleans for many years.
Sieltä tuli lisää tietoa. Kysytään vielä kerran tästä näin.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
I've given you as much detail as I can, Mr. Knight. Look around the museum if you desire more information.
No siinä oli kaikki. Kukas tää Marie Laveau oli? Siis sehän sanoi, että se oli johtava voodoo-papitar, mutta kerropa tarkemmin.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
There were actually two Marie Laveaus, mother and daughter. Most people thought they were the same woman. Her continued youth added to the mystique. The original, the mother, was also known as Widow Paris. It was she that began the empire. When the Widow Paris began to practice, there were many voodooans in the city. By 1830, she was voodoo queen of all New Orleans.
Kerropa vielä lisää.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
The Widow Paris was a hairdresser for rich Creole ladies. She also paid household servants to spy for her. Between the two, she knew everything about everyone who mattered in New Orleans. She was not above using her information to appear psychic, to intimidate, or even to blackmail.
You sound as though you admire her.
For a black woman in the mid-1800s to gain power is an incredible thing tonight, however she achieved it.
Vielä lisää.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
She kept a dead snake, danced with it. She held traditional voodoo ceremonies out by the lake. She took herself seriously, very seriously. But she was not above selling tickets for her events to curiosity seekers. She was not above using voodoo any way she could to make money. That is for certain. But if she had been in another line of work, in another age, that would have been interpreted as entrepreneurial genius rather than a sign of fraudulence.
Hey, you don't need to convince me. I admire anyone that can actually make a living.
Aika hyvä. Kerropa vielä lisää.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
It was Marie Laveau who defined the voodoo that is truly and uniquely the voodoo of New Orleans. She invented hundreds, if not thousands of spells, potions, charms, and incantations. These form the basis of the modern practice, not to mention the folk tradition of voodoo.
Vielä lisää.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
Her daughter, Marie Glapion, took over when the widow Paris got old. Most people thought it was the same Marie Laveau. Both Maries encouraged that point of view. The widow Paris died in 1881. Marie Glapion had been reigning a long time by then. After the death of the widow Paris, other voodoo queens surfaced, and by 1890, the cult was fragmented again. Marie Glapion just sort of faded away.
Vielä kerran kysyn sulta tästä.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
The Laveau tomb, where one or both of the Maries are believed to be buried, is in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1. It is a popular shrine for practitioners and tourists alike. I myself take tours through the cemetery on a regular basis.
Really? Do you have any running this week?
No, but the cemetery is open to the general public as well.
Sieltä tuli vähän lisää tietoa, että se on nimittäin tuo Marie Laveun hauta on tismalleen samassa paikassa, missä niin Gabriel Knightin vanhempia. Mutta kysytäänpä nykypäivän voodoosta.
Tell me about current voodoo.
Many people think of voodoo in terms of magic spells or grigri. That kind of practice is actually called hoodoo, and is only a part of true voodoo. Voodoo, the religion, has a strong following in New Orleans. In fact, it is growing quite rapidly. There are several voodoo churches or temples in the city, and others all across the United States. African Americans see it as a tradition all their own. Whites, and they are many in their religion, are attracted to it because they think it is exotic. I, personally, am more interested in the history of voodoo. Some of the new movements are copying Haitian or even African voodoo. But it is the voodoo of New Orleans that I find so intriguing.
Kerropa vielä vähän lisää.
Tell me more about current voodoo.
There are many voodooians in New Orleans. They often do business selling grigri, telling fortunes, providing luck, and occasionally misfortune. Perhaps you would like to meet a voodooian. We refer those who seek a deeper experience with voodoo to a local practitioner. My Jensha Moonbeam.
Sure, I'd love to meet her.
She lives on the corner of Orleans and Dauphine. I will call her and tell her you might stop by.
Great. Thanks.
Noin, saatiin lisää tietoja. Elikkä uuden henkilön pystytään tapaamaan, jonka luokse mennään ihan kohta puoliin. Kysytään vielä sitä huuduusta.
Is there anything else I should know about voodoo?
Not if your interest is primarily in voodoo. Voodoo is of interest to those who study rural folk traditions, but it will not aid you in understanding true voodoo.
Siinä oli kaikki täällä näin. Voidaan lähteä käymään hautausmaalla seuraavaksi.
Goodbye, Dr. John.
Come back again.
Elikkä tänne näin. Siinä on outoja merkintöjä laitettu katakompin kylkeen. Voitais piirtää ne ylös tästä näin. Voi olla hyötyä.
I want a copy of these strange marks.
Noin. Ja sitten poimitaan tuosta tuo mikäliekään tiili, jolla nuo on piirretty. Sillekin tulee käyttää tässä myöhemmin. Jutellaanpa sitten vähän tän talkkarin kanssa.
Excuse me, sir.
You got something to say, son?
Mind if I pick your brain a minute?
Go ahead. These folks ain't in no hurry.
Tässä tiedät voodoosta.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
They say it was part of an old religion from Africa, brought here by slaves.
Entäs voodoo-murhista?
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Ain't it just awful, them finding those bodies with voodoo things around them? I don't think there's any real voodoo going on. Somebody's trying to cover their tracks is all.
Entäs New Orleansista?
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
Seems like everybody wanna visit New Orleans at least once in their lives. And they love the cemetery tour. I see tourists in here every day of the year.
Entäs mitä sä tiedät käärmeistä?
Do you know anything about snakes?
Snakes? I see snakes around here all the time. Most of them ain't poisonous, of course.
Entäs tiedätkö sä mitä tarkoittaa Capri-Sanko?
Do you have any idea what Cabri-Sankar means?
No, can't say that I do.
Entäs Marie Laveau?
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
Sure. She was the voodoo queen of New Orleans. A powerful voodoo queen and a powerful sorceress. Believers still come to her tomb. They write secret marks on the walls, even offerings. Then there's the tourists. They come out of curiosity. As a matter of fact, that big Dr. John fella from the Voodoo Museum, he's here at least once today. But Marie Laveau's tomb ain't the only one the believers visit and make markings and leave offerings at.
Mitäs tiedätkö sä mikä Schattenjäger on?
Have you ever heard the word Schattenjäger?
I don't know what you talking about.
Et ilmeisesti. Entäs kerropa itsestäsi?
Tell me about yourself.
My name is Toussaint Gervais. I'm the watchman here at St. Louis No. 1.
What exactly do you do here?
Oh, I keep the place tidy, cause, but a big part of my job, too, is looking out for the grievers, you know. People come to pay their respects, and they need looking out for. Sometimes they so grief-bound they don't know what they doing.
Mitäs nämä muut merkityt haudat sitten on?
You said there were other marked tombs?
Yep, I seen bull hearts left on tombs and a nest of vulture feathers, plates of peas and corn greens, animal parts, human parts even it looked like. Male parts, if you get my meaning. And this at one of the great family crypts, mind you. Odd how them types just pick a spot and stick to it.
Mitä sä osaat kertoa tästä hautausmaasta?
Tell me something about St. Louis Cemetery, number 1.
You know why the dead are buried in tombs and not in the ground, don't you? The water table's too high. Them coffins would float right out of their graves. Them dead would go floating right down into the water. Cause if it was Mardi Gras, nobody'd even notice.
Siinä oli kaikki täällä näin. Voidaan jatkaa matkaa eteenpäin. Elikkä toisin sanoen poistutaan täältä hautausmaalta ja mennään tapaamaan sitten sitä muun piimiä, joka asuu täällä.
Welcome, Seeker. You must be the one Dr. John called me about.
I guess so. My name is...
Wait, Gabriel Knight.
You're too quick with me.
Actually, Dr. John told me. You have come to the right place, Mr. Knight. Tell me how I can help.
Oikeastaan mä voisin näyttää sulle niitä piirroksia.
Does this mean anything to you?
I can be of no help to you, Seeker.
Joo, hetkinen, se ei ollutkaan tuossa, vaan musti väärin, onkin tässä näin.
Do these symbols mean anything to you?
Oh, the voodoo code. It is very secret, yes. I studied it with my mentor, the great Queen Tabitha.
Really? Great. Can you tell me what it says?
Let's see. Well, some of it is nonsense, I'm afraid. Whoever wrote this wasn't very good.
That's all right. Just tell me what it says.
It starts with a D and a J, and then... Okay, this part makes sense. It says, conclave tonight, bring... Then there's more nonsense. F-W-E-T-K-A-S-H. Well, that last bit might mean cash. Fresh cash? It doesn't make much sense.
That's okay, thanks. DJ Conclave. K-A-S-H. It's a start.
I'm happy I could help.
Kyselläänpä siitä sitten minua muuten.
Could I ask you a few questions?
Of course, Seeker.
Mitä sä tiedät voodoosta?
What can you tell me about voodoo?
My practice is mainly selling charms and potions with magic power, such as gree-gree and voodoo oils. You know, everything from unrequited love to wandering spouses to winning a lawsuit. But my spells and charms are powerful, and they work.
Entäs voodoo-munat?
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Why, that has nothing to do with me and my clientele. But I can tell you that you should stay as far from it as possible. There is badness there. Very bad.
Entäs New Orleansista?
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
New Orleans is the center of voodoo practice in the United States.
Jep. Entäs käärmeistä?
Do you know anything about snakes?
Snakes? You mean like my beloved Grimwald? She's a python, you know. Quite deadly in the wrong hands. I was trained by one of the great voodoo queens to learn how to hypnotize and handle snakes.
Tietääkö se mitä Caprice tarkoittaa?
Do you have any idea what Caprice means?
No. No, I don't.
Entäs Marie Laveau?
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
Oh, yes. She was the first of the great voodoo queens.
Entäs Chattenjäger?
Have you ever heard the word Schattenjäger?
I don't know anything about that.
Kerropa itsestäsi.
Tell me about yourself.
Yes? What would you like to hear?
Miten sä päädyit harjoittamaan voodoota?
How'd you get into this business?
I trained in the voodoo arts for many years with the great queen Tabitha.
Really? Who's she?
You have never heard of her? For shame! I can see you know little of the world of magic.
I'm beginning to get that impression, yes.
Minkälaisia ihmisiä tulee sua tapaamaan?
What kind of people come to see you?
Seekers after the truth, such as yourself.
Mitäs muuta sä teet?
Do you do anything else?
I am a voodoo yen, and that is plenty. It takes much spiritual effort.
Kuinka monta voodoo pitarta on olemassa?
How many voodoo yens are there?
No one knows exactly. Many practice in secret. There are probably hundreds. But of course the level and the power of the voodoo yens differ greatly, depending on their training and natural gifts.
Kerropa sitten ihan mitä vaan.
Tell me anything at all.
I haven't always lived in New Orleans. I came here from Kansas as a young woman.
Jep.
I can't think of anything.
Very well.